Hey everyone, it's Colin Prenger, the Everyday Pilot on YouTube. I want to start this video out with a quick apology. I know this video is really late and tardy for this little mini-series that I decided to do, but that's because I lost the footage that I was going to use for part 2 and 3. I honestly don't know where it even went. I looked everywhere. I even tried to recover some cards and stuff like that, but I just couldn't find it anywhere. So I have this footage here that was also during my multi-engine training. On this day we did some ILS work. We didn't actually fly an ILS, we simulated an ILS while under single engine operations, a simulated engine failure. So it's going to be very similar to what I intended it to be, but it's just going to be a little bit different of a flight. Last thing I want to tell you is that I decided that I'm going to do a Google Hangout very soon. I'll post a quick video probably in the next few days here about when I'm going to hold the Google Hangout on YouTube, so be looking out for that video. Now let's get to the video. So you can see we're taxiing to runway 3 at Scottsdale Airport at Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're flying the Diamond Twinstar DA42 2.0. And if you didn't see part 1, I'll put an annotation right here to the part 1, and that's about departure and climb out procedures in the Twinstar. So just in a second here, we're going to switch over to when we were flying in the air after we've taken off and just before we actually started the lesson for the day. At this point, we're about 5 minutes into the flight, still climbing to our altitude. I think we went up to about 6,500 feet or 5,500 feet. We're currently about, 10 miles northeast of Scottsdale Airpark over the Carefree area just north of town. And this is before we started the actual training for the day. So instead of actually flying an ILS approach into a certain airport, we decided it would be a bit more efficient and it would save a lot of time if we simulated an ILS. So what my instructor did, and you can see it on the right screen there, is that he drew a line using the MFD out from a radial of the Phoenix VOR on a certain radial, and that acted as our localizer for the practice. So what he would do is that right now we'd be paralleling the localizer, and then he'd have me do our 90-degree right turn and then another 90-degree right turn to intercept the localizer, and somewhere between here and there he would fail the engine, and then you'd have to try and shoot the ILS or track the localizer single engine. I fast forwarded a couple minutes here to where my instructor started to give me vectors onto the simulated ILS. So I just turned my heading bug to the right because he's playing the role of ATC. He's giving me headings to fly and altitudes to descend to in order to simulate the ILS as close as possible if you were doing it at an airport. So right now both engines are running, and in just about a minute or two here he is going to fail one of the engines. Right on cue, my instructor decided to pull the right engines just as I was about to intercept the localizer. So he pulled the right engine back to simulate an engine failure. We didn't actually fail the engine. So since we were close to the airport, or simulated close to the airport, the choice in this situation would be to feather the engine. So you're going to clean up the aircraft, you're going to just identify, verify, and then you're going to go through with the feathering procedures. And making sure you do your checklist, of course. And I pull out my checklist right now and make sure I got everything. But the difficult thing about this is that when you have an engine failure, you're going to have some adverse yaw in whatever direction based on what engine you have failed. And what's difficult about that is tracking the localizer, because as you can see, I'm a little distracted by checking the checklist and also maintaining control of the aircraft. And if you let the yaw of the aircraft get a little bit off just because you're not paying attention because you're reading checklists, you're flustered, you can really lose that localizer quickly and you can really get out of control. So this is the whole point of the lesson, is to try and maintain control of the aircraft while also going through the procedures of feathering the engine so you can put the aircraft down safely. I know that gear warning horn is really annoying, but it kind of gives you the idea that when you're in an engine failure situation, you know, there's going to be horns going off, there's going to be a lot of stuff going in other way that you don't want it to, and it can be really stressful. So once I successfully feathered the engine, or simulated the engine feathering, my instructor told me to try and troubleshoot now that, let's say the ILS is over now. We're going to try and troubleshoot and see if there was something wrong, that we maybe switched a button off that we shouldn't have. So that's the whole point of the troubleshooting checklist. If you have enough altitude under the plane and you have time on your side, you want to go through and make sure you've got everything checked. So you check circuit breakers, maybe something popped out for your alternators. Your alternator switch was off, your master switch was accidentally bumped off somehow. Or, you know, you ran the engine dry and starved it of fuel, and that's why it failed. So there can be multiple reasons that may have accidentally caused an engine failure, and that's the whole point of a troubleshooting checklist. So that's going to wrap it up. We did that about 3 or 4 more times, and once we got the hang of it, we returned back to Scottsdale for a single engine landing, which isn't as hard as it may sound. That'll be coming soon in part 3 of 3 in this mini-series. Don't forget, below you can ask questions in the comments or just leave a comment if you have anything you would like to say about this video. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button as well. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.